Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I hope everyone enjoyed your lunch. Again, I am Lakeisha Ray. I am one of the managers here for the ECI division, excuse me. And I'm going to introduce our next session, Creating Pathways to Prosperity, Economic Mobility from Childhood to Career. Our moderator for this session is Dr. Brenda Rios Brombacher, and she is a dedicated leader in economic development and entrepreneurship. As the Director of Economic Development for Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, she forges strategic partnerships to drive regional growth and opportunity. With a background in academia and community initiatives, Dr. Brombacher brings deep expertise in fostering sustainable business ecosystems, making her the perfect guide for today's discussion. Please welcome Dr. Brenda Rios Brombacher.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. How's everybody feeling after lunch? I hope, that was very low energy. Come on, how is everybody feeling today? All right. Who in here is a parent, grandparent that takes care of a child during the week and you work full-time, part-time? You raise your hand and keep raising them. Who in here is an early childhood service provider? All right, continue raising your hands. Advocates and policymakers on education? All right, yeah, it's most of our room. Really, I feel like economic prosperity is for all of us, you know? It should be an opportunity available for all of us without any sacrifices to be made in our schedules. And we know that early childhood initiatives and businesses are the backbone of our communities. You don't just provide, education for our little ones. You create the foundation for our economy to run. Yet, despite of this essential role, many early childhood programs face significant barriers to sustainability, navigate complex regulations, and leave many talented families. So today in our panel, and our panelists can start walking this way, we will have this conversation with deep expertise and firsthand experience in creating workforce development programs, equitable procurement initiatives, strong public education advocacy, and enhancing policies for early childhood improvements. So with that, let's get started. I'd like to begin introducing our panelists. First, Juliet Stipeche. She serves as the Director of Human Services at the Houston-Galveston Area Council. And she's the Executive Director of the Gulf Coast Workforce Board. In this role, she oversees programs such as the Gulf Coast Workforce Solutions, the Houston-Galveston Area Agency on Aging, and the Aging and Disability Resource Center, supporting a diverse 13-county region with over 7 million residents. She's a native East End Houstonian, and she graduated as valedictorian from her high school for law enforcement and criminal justice. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science, Policy Studies, and Religious Studies from Rice University, and was magna cum laude, obtaining her JD at UT School of Law. So let's give it up for her. Next, we have Ms. Maya Thornton. She serves as the Director of Inclusive Procurement at Harris County's DEO. In her role, she's responsible for expanding county contracting opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses, ensuring that such enterprises have equitable access to county procurement processes. Prior to her tenure, Maya has held leadership positions and served as Director of Materials Management for Fordham Independent School District, overseeing the strategic planning and vision of purchasing, contracts, and warehouse departments. She has earned her bachelor's degree in political science from Xavier University of Louisiana and a JD from Southern University Law Center. Let's give it up to Maya. Next, we have Cary Wright, who is the CEO of Good Reason Houston, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving public education in Houston through collaboration with families, educators, policymakers, and philanthropists. Before becoming the CEO, Cary served as the Chief External Affairs Officer for Good Reason Houston, overseeing the communications, policy, and advancement. His prior experience includes nearly a decade with Teach for America, culminating in his role as Executive Director of the Dallas-Fort Worth region. Beyond his professional commitments, Cary actively contributes to the Houston community as a board member of Houstonians, for Great Public Schools and is a member of the Greater Houston's Partnerships Upskill Executive Committee. He has a bachelor's degree from Davidson College, and he's a native of Amarillo, Texas, a proud graduate of Texas Public Schools and currently residing here in Houston. So let's give it up to Cary. And last but not least, we have Ms. Lynn Lucas, who serves as the Associate Director of Early Childhood Education at Children at Risk. It's a Texas-based nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the quality of early childhood education across the state. Prior to joining Children at Risk, she was the Senior Vice President of Early Education and Program Evaluation at Campfire, Texas, where she led efforts to improve early education programs and assess their effectiveness. She also operates Lucas Consulting, so she's a business, offering her expertise as an early education consultant. She holds a master's in education and curriculum studies from Texas Christian University and also studied communications and advertising at UT Arlington. All right, we have an amazing panel. All right, well, let me get started over here. So for the first question, we're gonna go a little bit easy. What's something unexpected that you learned in your career journey, key challenges that you faced in your field right now, and if you could do one thing about the way we approach your industry, what would it be? And it could be in any order, or we can do Juliet this way.
Well, thank you very much for that question and for the opportunity to spend some time here today. I think in early childhood education, when I served on the Houston ISD School Board, I remember there wasn't a tremendous amount of discussion regarding the importance of early childhood education until there was a consortium of people that came together and started saying there's something that we desperately have to do because this is the most critical time in a child's history to be able to set the stage for the rest of their life. And you think about this was in I want to say it was probably around 2010 or so. So just a short while ago, where you see this tremendous advocacy starting to come together, saying, how are we going to get business, education institutions, even healthcare institutions and other partners in the community to start focusing on this area? And so I think something that was so revealing to me is that we often take this area for granted. And it is so important. And I am just extraordinarily pleased by the surge of imports and importance and investment and the time that has been developing in this field, especially the dramatic transformation and the understanding of a baby's brain development at this critical time in their history.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Wow, thank you for that. That's awesome. Well, for me, I think what I had to learn early in my career is, believe it or not, it's one thing to listen to your peers and all the great things that you do either in early childhood or small business development, but it's another thing to listen to the detractors, right? So what I got together what the detractors of each of the programs and said, why is it that you're not infusing small business capital into our ecosystem? Why are we not discussing early childhood? So it was listening to those distractors and really coming to a meeting of the minds where they understood my side, I understood their side, and actually we worked together to collaborate to create different programmatic ideas, programmatic solutions, and most importantly, programmatic funding to ensure not only from a small business ecosystem, but also from an early childhood ecosystem as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I come to this conversation today representing an interest that goes from early childhood education all the way to early career employment, and the critical role that all things related to our kids 0 through age 8 obviously so fundamentally predicts what's going to happen in their academic trajectory beyond those early grades. One of the things that I think a lot about in the realm of the pre-K-12 educational system that I sometimes lament is currently true is just the way in which accountability in public education has evolved over time. I think we're an organization that deeply believes in ensuring that every child in every neighborhood of Houston and Harris County should get access to a phenomenal education. And for us, that starts with We as a state and as a community should set really high standards for learning for all of our kids, and we should have tools to help us measure how well are our kids meeting those standards of learning. I think where we've gotten kind of off track as it relates to accountability is then using accountability as a tool to demonize educators or schools rather than using that as a tool to support educators and families to help uplift all of our kids to ensure that they're getting the tools, supports, and resources that they need. But at the end of the day, I think we're deeply committed to the notion that what gets measured gets fixed or gets supported. So this idea that we as a community, I think, are empowered when we have information that helps us know which kids are being served well by the coordination of our public systems and entities and which kids are not yet being served well. And how do we really think about ways to forge new ground in serving those kids who have been left out of that continuum of care for too long? This has historically been underneath the umbrella of the term equity, which I know is going through a renaissance, which we could all talk about. But really this idea of we should be making a disproportionate investment of our precious resources in the kids that most need those resources to be on track for opportunities in their future.
At Children at Risk, one of the wonderful opportunities that we have through the early education work that we do is an annual, actually it's a biannual, but one of those visits is virtual. Annually, we do a Texas tour. So we get to go to 12 different parts of Texas. So we touch all different parts of the state and ask them key questions. And one of those questions, in addition to how are things going with some things that we track in terms of quality and childcare deserts, we also ask, how are things in your community? And you know, you're talking to a girl here that started out as a toddler teacher, and so childcare has been first forever for me. I walk into a room and it's always the question that I'm asking. Something that I've learned in my career as that trajectory has continued is whether it's other people locally where I live, or talking throughout people that are in different sectors, like the business community or healthcare, the Chamber of Commerce, those kinds of things. And then going out to the different communities and asking, what's happening in your community? What's working? What's not working? What are the childcare related things that are happening in your world that need some attention right now? And in addition to the things that we're clearly measuring, we still hear things like, there's this big company coming into town and we're not going to have enough childcare, you know? And for me, I'm as a person who's always walking in the room asking about childcare, it still astonishes me that someone could come in with a big business and have all this economic opportunity in a community and to realize that, hey, nobody asked about childcare.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's a need. I have a toddler. He's almost 2 years old. I'm pregnant with our second.
Oh, congratulations.
So, thank you. So this is a conversation that we're having daily, like with my husband. It's like, should we get a new house? Like, you know, what kind of school zones do we have in our house? I'm blessed to say, you know, we have retired, my in-laws are retired, you know, so they can take care of him while he also gets to go to school. But not everybody gets that opportunity or has that in their families. So I feel like maybe this is a good segue for the next question. What do you think are the primary barriers to economic mobility in Harris County when it comes to early childhood? Yeah. I know it's a loaded one. It started with the easy one. Go ahead. Yes.
Oh, I wasn't sure. I was like, who did she say first? Because I didn't hear. Okay. When we talk about that, I would say limited capital, right? Funding is always an issue. So one of the great things that I do want to tell everybody that in DEO, we do have a funding source for you to provide micro loans to small businesses and other small businesses within our ecosystem, right? Another challenge that we have as far as from a small business space is the way in which organizations do their procurement processes, even from a county lens to a city lens. So procurement procurement barriers are always a challenge, right? Understanding what's required of you. And then, of course, when we talk about the lack of generational wealth, so the wealth gap that's passed down or lack thereof from one vantage point to another, especially of those families of people of color. So just from a small business space, those are, I think, the top three where we do have some challenges.
I can kind of take more of a global view. Again, our organization works to support educational outcomes for kids all across our region. Let's say, give or take, we've got about 1 million kids who are relying on our public educational entities and child care systems to support their path to opportunity in life. And one thing we look at sort of as the North Star goal that we're really trying to coordinate our community toward is getting more kids on a path to early living wage attainment in their career. Right now, some recent research that we've done says that only 20% of graduates from a Houston area high school earn a living wage of $42,300 a year 6 years after leaving a Houston area high school. So that's only 20%, right? And we don't solve that issue only looking at quality of outcomes in higher education, quality of preparation in high school. The work that you all do is what's going to solve that issue. It really starts with how do we support kids of every community early on to access quality early programs that help support their development so that early on they're meeting the same standards of readiness as their peers from more affluent communities, right? So from our standpoint, we need to be planning backwards from that longer term goal of how do we ensure that every kid growing up in our community is on track for an opportunity that they choose, but at minimum, let's make sure they're on track for an opportunity that includes access to a high skill, high wage, high demand job that can keep them as a contributing leader in their community here in Houston. And so I think we got to think about not just making sure at every stage of that journey they're prepared academically for those things. It's also about the access and exposure to what are those pathways, what are those opportunities throughout the course of their education that are going to put them in distance of those opportunities. And I think it's also, as you get further back into that sort of higher component of their education, the advising to really help navigate choices for students about which path they could take that's going to put them on a path to that greater opportunity. But again, I think it all really starts with what happens in the early stages of their educational experience that are really going to be predictive of the journey that they may have available to them as they go further into their educational tenure over time.
So food, a roof over my head, and many other things, including, if I am working, a childcare if I have children. These are things that are necessary in order to be able to do our lives well, and it's really hard to be able to do those things if you're not earning a living wage. And, you know, as we try to do things that impact poverty and in turn kind of lift up our communities and the economic mobility and potential and opportunities for our adults and children, we need to set the stage for that to even be possible with our minimum wage. And so I do find that there are opportunities in different parts of the community where they're taking it, in different parts of the state, where through foundations and some local funding supports that they're taking that opportunity to lift up their local childcare communities by making sure that teachers that are in high quality centers and doing really good work are making $16 and more an hour by supplementing that minimum wage, and that's a good start.
Nobody has mentioned transportation.
Yeah.
Really like
Well,
that.
you know, I was going to say that, of course, you know, having a stable, nurturing home is critically important, and that requires quality housing for families, right? But then, you know, families need to be able to have access to a career that pays a fair living wage, but if they don't have transportation, how are they going to get there, right? So we're talking about, I remember I had an opportunity to go and testify in Austin before one of the economic committees about early childhood education. And they said, you can talk to us about anything, but don't ask for more money. And I was like, well, I better wrap up and just leave. No, but the thing, the thing is, it's like, I testified, I said, look, the Gulf Coast Workforce Board has invested more money in terms of technology, staff, to make a support center where we can distribute the child care dollars much more effectively and efficiently. And we've done that, but now the backlog keeps on the wait list gets larger and larger. So I wanted to make sure that we designed and developed a team at Workforce that way we could say that it wasn't an issue about our inefficiencies. It's actually now an issue about demand. Families need the support to be able to go to school, to get a good job. During COVID, it rang home. What happened when the schoolhouses and the child care centers closed? How could essential workers go to their job? They couldn't, because they didn't have someone to take care of their children. And so childcare in a crisis saw the opportunity for people to recognize the tremendous value that education, early childhood education, quality early childhood education, and the K-12 system has on the economy. And I go back to what I said initially in my first answer. When I started in 2010 in education, no one was talking about this as much as it should be discussed. And today, in the current 89th legislative session, this is now a priority. Why is it a priority? Because we cannot have a workforce without an early quality system that exists. And it's twofold. It's for the child, but it's for the parents too. And if we start looking at families holistically and looking at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then we can start designing and developing a system where every dollar is maximized to support a family-centered, focused strategy that's on the well-being of every member of that family being incorporated into the economy and into the community.
Absolutely, that was powerful. All right. What do you think, what partnerships or collaborative efforts that you see in your industries between businesses, nonprofits, education, and government entities are helping to create more accessible economic pathways to families?
I can start. This feels like an easy one or a self-evident one, because in many ways, the organization which I lead, Good Reason Houston, exists to be a partnership like this one. When I think of that critical work of supporting all of our systems in a coordinated way to help ensure that kids from cradle to career are successful, there's a lot of different handoffs that have to happen successfully that are really focused on the students' outcomes and their well-being. I think if we look at the beginning stage, that handoff between childcare and their early educational journey, their early grades, K, 1, 2, there's obviously different interests at stake, right? And so I think you all, those of you that work directly in the childcare space, have so many of the answers around, well, what can we do that is both in the interest of supporting our kids at the earliest ages, 0, 1, 2, 3, but also as we think about those ages 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we've got to create better ways to coordinate our systems in a way that blends the support that's in the service of all of our students in every part of our community. We also do that work on the other side of the equation as well, thinking about how do we support our students graduating from our Houston area public high school systems into quality institutions of higher education to ensure they're on a path for some type of post-secondary credential of value that's going to put them in spitting distance of that living wage attainment, hopefully well above that. But I think a lot about that is work that has to happen by coordinating efforts of folks like you who have those deep insights and can contribute to, well, what is the way in which we can really make student, child-focused decisions while integrating the different sort of systems that help support their overall well-being and development?
I have an example that I'd like to share. It's the first thing I think of, and I like this example because it's an in-process one. It's not perfect and it's not complete, but when is anything ever perfect and complete? And that's early childhood apprenticeships. So a lot of work to do in this area, but it's also new and promising. And it's something that braids different kinds of funding and different kinds of resources and different kinds of sectors in order to support the kind of that dual purpose goal. And so through this, initially, what this means is you have to have partners at the table that's going to include the early childhood sector. You're going to want your local higher ed people there. You're going to want your local ISD people there if you want to integrate apprenticeships into the ISD system and help young students be able to graduate with credit and a certification. You're going to want to have people engage with the TWC for sure. You're going to want your workforce board there for certain. And if you're lucky, you also get to have a funder or foundation and a business person to help begin this conversation, because it's going to take all of you, but you can do it. There are examples. The first one got started at Campfire First Texas in the Tarrant County area, and they now have students that graduate with bachelor's degrees. They have a relationship with Tarleton. They have a relationship with Tarrant County Workforce Board. They have a relationship with funders. They have a relationship with several other people at this point in the community that all help to make this work. They're in Northwest ISD. They're in Fort Worth ISD. And so it's in the longer this program is in action, the more integrated it gets to other parts of the system. And so now there are high school students a part of the program. There are young children who are getting to have people that are invested in doing early education well in their classrooms, who have a mentor and support similar to the ELQN support that you have here in Houston. And they're building up an infrastructure that needs to get stronger, because we have to make sure that early education, that's an educational pathway that leads not only to further education and college coursework credit, but also to a livable and beyond livable wage, because it's that important.
I think that the power of relationships is key to success. One person told me, Juliet, your net worth is valued by your net work. And I was like, I like it, so I'm gonna share that with y'all, right? And it's true, because what happens when there's a crisis and an emergency? If you have I hate to use it, I'm dating myself, a Rolodex or a cell phone full of all the right numbers, then you've got someone that you can call for when you need help. You have somebody that can answer a question when you're confused about something. Good Lord, running a business is challenging. You know, how many folks know about finance, microloans, all this other type of stuff? It's hard, right? And so you need folks that you can reach out to that can give you that expertise, because if you don't have that person in that cell phone, you've got to struggle and catch up, right? So I tell folks, the value and importance of getting a diverse array of partners together is critical to build an ecosystem that's going to solve the complexities of the problems we're trying to address here today. Bottom line, we all need to do it together. And by sitting down and breaking bread with one another, we start to understand our language. We're able to communicate more effectively. We're able to collaborate on solutions. But most importantly, we can start coordinating how we're delivering services and care to our communities, regardless of zip code, right? Or in spite of saying that distance is a challenge, right? And so, back in the day when I was an undergrad, I had to write a paper as part of my graduation requirement, and I decided to talk about the importance of relationships in disseminating information. And that was before the internet even exploded. And it was saying people share information most commonly and quickly by word of mouth, right? So by coming to these different types of settings where you have Harris County. Now, this is an example. Harris County, being a government entity that put its neck out there to say it would be a champion for early childhood education, is an example of leadership and action of an organization that is not typically in this space and place, but that has made that conscientious effort with the additional ARPA and CARES dollars to experiment, to collaborate with the Gulf Coast Workforce Board, to collaborate with the school districts, CBOs, partners, creating lovely opportunities for us to sit here together. And the walkaway and the takeaway is the integration of opportunities is critical to the success of every child in this community.
Well, there are two programs that I really want to highlight today. One of them is Higher Up Harris. And what Higher Up Harris provides is marketing resources for your small business where you can come in and get some technical assistance about how you can market your business to to other providers, right? So please come and get some information at the table there. And then another program I want to talk about is our apprenticeship program, and this is super important for your parents, right? So what it does is provides new skills in new industries. So when we talk about green space and new sustainability opportunities and jobs and corporations that are coming into the county, the apprenticeship program provides an opportunity for your parents to get involved. Not only does it provide the opportunity of apprenticeship, but most importantly, it looks to wraparound services. So when we talk about transportation and different types of daycare providers that can service children outside the normal 8 to 5. So I think what's really important is you collaborating with the county and then you taking that information and providing it to your parents so they know what's available to them. So please, please, please do not leave here today without visiting our table so you can know what information and what programs are out there to support not only you, but also your parents who then can support the child. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Well, as we continue with the questions, I do want to open it up to audience. Start thinking of the questions that you want to start asking our panelists. And I think we do have one first here with Rupani Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for this wonderful discussion. I was just wondering whether anyone of us had taken this kind of initiative before of making the work environment, the part of work environment as a parent-friendly. I mean, mothers with the kids, they could take their kids to the work, making it a policy advocacy. Perhaps this could be a employee-employer shared resourced center where they could actually just engage one person, like the daycare facilitator or trainer, and a few, maybe a corner in their office. Just imagine for a mother whose kid is just in front of her and the productivity she could give as compared to a mother who has just left her kid at home. So can we somehow do this kind of advocacy at state level or at even smaller level to empower such kind of decisions at the employers level, that they should start this kind of thing, the impact basically could be enormous, This is not a question, but maybe a comment you could just endorse. Maybe.
So I'll just say something just generally. In this legislative session, there's been a lot of activity in terms of workforce and childcare. And this was one of the discussions of how can employers participate in terms of creating early childhood centers near or at their work environment. And the TWC, we actually developed a early childhood education expansion team to talk about these opportunities, right? And so, some of the employers that we talked to, they were like, oh my gosh, this is so complicated. We don't necessarily want to do this, but how can you help us partner with somebody that already exists to facilitate that process? So I think it's something that we really have to talk to employers about, get their feedback on, but it would be such a benefit, a win-win for the families as well as the employers as well, because we know of the dramatic loss that companies experience in the terms of billions and billions of dollars because of absenteeism due to not having adequate childcare.
There is an initiative called Best Place for Working Parents. Maybe some of you have heard about it or are lucky enough to work someplace that is a best place for working parents. But it really looks at pro-family support for employees. And so it might be if you go on the website, there's a little checklist. It's not getting to the depth that you're actually talking about there, but it's a good start. And if you work somewhere where you're not designated as a best place for working families, go see if you would qualify. It's definitely a good place to get the conversation started to support young children and families.
Maybe going a little bit deeper, have you seen some type of legislation or advocacy happening where it is not a taboo to bring in your kids to work? It's not just the culture from employers, but it's also the enforcement, the regulation behind it too, making sure employers don't think you'll lose productivity by bringing your kids to work or to your office. I mean, kudos to the mom here with the baby in our audience, right? Like, she's here, she's been engaging, and she brought her baby, right? But that should be the normal, right? Have you seen this in your field?
You know, in all honesty, I haven't. I mean, right now, it's really critical because a lot of agencies are asking parents who even had a remote option to return to work full time. So I think what he's saying is a great idea, but definitely a big ask in the landscape that we currently are in. I mean, I think at this point in time, employees are just happy to even have a hybrid option. But I love what you just said. I mean, I'd love to have my kids to come in. And then not only that, kids are always like, oh, what do I want to be when I grow up? Do I want to do this? I want to do that. It just would allow them so much more exposure that they don't currently have. But I just think right now in the current landscape, it's, can I just keep my hybrid option, please?
Sorry, I have to go across the room.
Hello, I have a comment to your question. So I don't know if many of you are familiar with Bright Horizons. So Bright Horizons is a backup childcare provider. So any organization that helps, I guess, their employees have work-life balance, they provide backup childcare, be it if your school is closed or if you just need to recruit or do some training. So everywhere from banks, pretty much all the hospitals and the medical center, they're Bright Horizons. And my center, I own a 24-hour childcare center. We are a Bright Horizons backup childcare provider. But even though, like, let's say Methodist Hospital downtown, they may have an on-site childcare system, they have a waiting list because, of course, their employees get first dibs, but there's not enough space or capacity for them to continue to provide that for all of their providers. So that is one option, but I haven't seen enough organizations, like when you were talking, Lynn, about organizations that are coming in like big business, but no one's talking about childcare. How do we start having those conversations when companies like Amazon's are coming in and buying up all of our land and doing all the things? Who's going to take care of those kids? They're working 24 hours a day to make sure my package is on my door. But what's happening to those kids? So I have tried to talk to Bright Horizons about that. It hasn't really manifested into really getting to the table for that discussion. So if you have any insight, I'd love to chat. And then the question I had for you was, I know you mentioned Tarrant County, Lynn, as having the, the early childhood apprenticeship programs. Have you seen anything like that locally, like in our area? We have started a similar model with my, I have a STEM school as well, and we actually hire STEM specialists to work with our children. So we have engineers that actually work with our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And we've seen a vast increase in their capacity. And we even have a student that came to us as a medical student. He's now finishing up his program, but he says that working with our students really helped improve, I guess, like his soft skills, like his bedside manner, because he's like, if I can teach it to a 4-year-old, then I really know what I'm talking about. But I just wanted to know, have you seen anything like that in our area? And if not, let's talk about it.
Excellent. So I'm so glad that you asked. To the first thing about the businesses, I do want to say, one of the things that we've done as we've gone on those 12 stops is to invite the workforce board in, and they've been so great about coming to those meetings and engaging with them. And also, when we ask the communities what's working and not working, another piece of that question when it comes to bridging the gap and really thinking about things in terms of an ecosystem to lift us all up is, who are we? We cannot wait to be invited to the table. It's stop waiting, it's we have to go find out where the table is that we need to be at and, and ask to be at that table. And so one of those tables, if you're thinking about businesses, might be your local Chamber of Commerce. Make sure they know about you. Make sure you know about any businesses that are coming in, because if they're not going to ask, you can let them know, or you can ask them the question, have you thought about childcare? Let's work on this together. Who else do we need to have come in? You're going to want your local workforce boards. You're going to want your Chamber of Commerce. You're going to want childcare, et cetera, et cetera. The second thing, yes, so the Children's Learning Institute they do have a registered apprenticeship program that is connected directly to some work that they do. And so within that system, And while that's not available Houston or Harris County wide, it's a start here and it's some examples of what can work. I will tell you, if like locally being able to have like cross-sector work together to lead some of these issues, like a really strongly held collaborative work together, can help mend some of these, can help get you there. And so in Harris County, if you had the ability to be able to subsidize what people earn through the apprenticeship process, because that is a barrier for a lot of workforce boards, of course it is, then that might be something that would help to engage the Harris County community to be able to do some of that, more of that work. I'm not sure because I'm not engaged with that here, but I don't know, very interested in talking more, and I bet there's someone at the other end that could talk more about that.
So I have my beautiful, amazing team of early childhood education quality is located at that. Yes, please wave. So when you have an opportunity, go and speak to them because they will be able to share information about. We have apprenticeship programs that are available. We have upskilling opportunities available, and there's also scholarship opportunities available for families. For folks that are eligible, we can offer up to 2 years, $6,000, a maximum of $12,000 for upskilling opportunities at any one of the trainers that are on our eligible training provider list. Those are local community colleges, different centers, colleges as well. So please, those are opportunities that are available for our community through the Gulf Coast Workforce Board.
Woo. Yes. Okay, before another question, we have some more insight in the audience. So I'm walking to the insight.
Thanks, Andrews. I said I don't have a question, I have an answer.
Perfect.
So just thanks, panel, first of all. But you asked a question about legislation that would help businesses, and I just want to call out two things. The first is that TWC has put out an RFP that would go to businesses who want consulting help to figure out what type of childcare support they should give to their employees. I was just told this week that we should be coming out with who they've selected to receive that RFP this month. So that is something specifically that will be for companies who want to do, they don't know what they want to do, they just know they want to help their employees. On-site childcare, backup care, what have you. So that's to come. And then the second thing is that there is some legislation at the Capitol right now. We're in session to help with this. So one of them, Senator West out of Dallas, he's got something that would provide a franchise tax credit for any company that offers on-site care. And then the last one is one of my bills, so I'll kind of put in a plug for this, but Chair Button has, it's House Bill 3191, and it's sort of like this employer incentive legislation that would give a franchise tax credit to companies that support their employees with childcare in any way, shape, or form. And then the second piece of it would offer an employer match program. So if you're a business and you put in $100 a month to help your employees with childcare, the state would match it at $100. So it wouldn't eliminate the cost of childcare for families, but it would reduce it, hopefully helping that burden be a little bit lighter.
I love that. See, this is what I love about this kind of convening platforms, because this is the network. We do have solutions. We do have answers to our challenging questions. Cary.
Well, I was also going to say, if you don't know Wendy, who leads Early Matters for Texas statewide, you better introduce yourself to her before you go today, because she's got all the insight into what's going on.
I love it. Any other resources that come to mind that will be useful for our audience? No? We do definitely have the booths and all of the information, so definitely connect with that. I know we have 2 more minutes. Maybe let's
Brenda, we have an online question. You always want to take that one?
Sure thing.
Okay, let me pull it up. Are there programs where working moms can work at a childcare provider, work with a childcare provider, and then have their children attend childcare for free or reduced cost?
There we go.
We've expanded our panel.
Are you the online question submitter? No.
She's coming to you.
I'm coming, Jennifer. Hold on one second. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, sorry.
My name is Jennifer Johnson. I'm the executive director of Project One Day. We are a 501c3 that created a unique model, which we actually train the parent to be one of the teachers in the classroom. Each parent undergoes a background check, a drug test, and 30 hours of training in early childhood development. Once they're trained, each parent volunteers 1 day a week as an assistant teacher in our beautiful, beautiful school. And then the other 4 days a week, they receive completely free childcare so they can work or go to school. So my question for the panel is, I want a long list of employers who have flex jobs, right? Because we are highly attuned to the needs of parents. And I can tell you the parents that stay longest in employment are ones where they have an employer who is willing to give them flex time. Not necessarily bringing that baby to work with you, but at least giving them some flex time. So that's all.
Yes. Do we have that list available somewhere? Ishkak. Maybe as we start wrapping up then, thank you for all sharing your resources. I really love seeing that in this room. Looking ahead, what excites you most about the future of our county?
That's easy. I think our potential. I mean, our growth, our diversity, the incredible people in this room who are leading so much awesome work on behalf of our region at every level. So to me, it's our potential.
For me, I think it's being in tune to the needs of the county and our taxpayers. It was mentioned about a living wage. Commissioner's Court just approved a new living wage in court last, actually it was this, what are we in April now? Last month. So just being in tune and being proactive, that we hear what our taxpayers and our constituents are saying, and we're addressing those needs in a more proactive way. So excited about that.
I think you should get the last word. So I'll just say the opportunities abound, and being here makes that really clear. There's a lot of opportunities to work across different businesses, sectors, and interests to make this work.
So, I'd say I'm a native Houstonian. I love Houston and Harris County. I had the opportunity to work for Mayor Sylvester Turner. And, I think the thing is, he would say, tomorrow will be better than today. And I know that bringing people together, having an opportunity to convene, and always looking at the importance of our babies and making sure that we know that even though they can't necessarily lobby for themselves, we must be a child-friendly city that always focuses on them because, they hate to sound cliche, but they're our future, right? And so I'm so proud of Harris County making this investment and the time and effort to focus on early childhood education. And I'm very proud to be part of a community that focuses on the educators and the supporters and the people that are in this space, making sure that our future is just as bright as it can be for everyone.
All right, let's give it out to our panelists and our audience.